Hello and welcome back to our global launch of A Woman's Guide to Business Domination. Launched today, super excited to be sharing with all of you. And we've been interviewing 18 amazing ladies from around the globe. And here is another one of our amazing authors, Leeza Carlone Steindorf. And she has written a chapter called The Power of Connection. Oh, so important. So first of all, welcome, Leeza, before I introduce you to everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Love to be here, and I'm excited about the launch.
Oh, so exciting. So Leeza, for those of you who do not know her, is a global thought leader. She's a consultant, a leadership coach with over 20 years of experience. She's got an extensive background helping leaders make consistent forward movement, especially during times of extreme circumstances. She's been guiding state representatives and corporate executives in world-class multinational corporations, trade unions, not-profits, education institutions in over 35 cultures to recognize their value and their design detailed strategic roadmaps and consistently achieve extraordinary results. Oh my goodness, everyone needs Leeza in their camp for sure. She helps people shatter their own internal glass ceilings and thrive above all. And I could go on and on and on about her. She's super awesome. Welcome to our launch, Leeza.
Thank you, Annie.
Now, Leeza, you chose out of all the things that you do to actually write a chapter in this amazing book called The Power of Connection. Mm-hmm. Why is that your choice topic to talk about sharing to the world at the moment?
I found, and I deeply believe, that it's the beginning of everything. You can't achieve things, you can't make movements in the world, you can't make decisions, plans, nothing really, unless you are connected first to yourself and whatever spirit or energy or whatever it is you feel connected to. For me, it's nature, but connecting first to that and knowing that as my beingness. And from that, having that as my launch pad, really for anything that I do, for my thoughts, for my actions, for my values, my intention. So that connection and being clear about it, being aware of it and intentional with our connection with self and others is absolutely key to everything.
So why don't we all know that? Why don't we all go, oh my gosh, this is a guiding principle. We actually need to totally be secure in who we are and then be able to know how strongly that will help us connect with the right kind of people and not the wrong kind of people. Why isn't this just organic for us? Why don't we just kind of have clarity around that, just, from childhood on?
You know what? You just nailed it. It is organic and we do have clarity on it, but we've been pulled away from it. We've had layers put on top of it. We've distanced ourselves from our own connection through judgments from the external world and from others. As small children, you think, if you've had children, as I know you have, beautiful ones in the world, you have these little infants, these these pure beings, right? They know nothing but connection. They've been in the womb for 9 months. Like, connection is their whole existence. Then they come out into the world, right? And so that's one step of supposed separation. But depending on how, in a book that I've written also is called Connected Parent, Empowered Child, right? So when the parent is connected with themselves and with the child, then the child is empowered to be in the world and do in the world and live their potential and what they came here to do, their purpose. So we do know that, and connection organically, it is who we are. The problem is that, and well-meaning parents, my parents did the best they could, but I was told what I have to say doesn't make sense. You need to be seen and not heard as a child. I'll know what I'm talking about when I grow up. All these things that made me think, wow, so what am I supposed to listen to and understand and trust? And then it was all out there. Nobody said, what do you think? How do you see this? What do you want now? Right? As small children, we rarely hear that. We're like, you don't want that. Don't do that. Stop that. Right? So we are trained away from the organic connection that we know, but it never goes away. We just think it does. And that's why I wrote this chapter.
Oh my goodness, that's exactly why you wrote the chapter, because that's awesome to hear. That is refreshing to hear that you're not actually teaching it's a new principle. You're actually saying, no, that principle is always there. We've actually lost sight of that. And that is so true. How many of us listening in, watching this go, yeah, that's right. When you actually start unpacking it, a lot of your life, a lot of your foundational years are telling you don't be who you are. You've got this incredible pressure to conform and to stay quiet or reserved or to pull back, right?
Especially as women, right? And so as women, I mean, maybe in today's world, maybe it's better or easier or not as difficult for younger girls and young women to feel pulled away from their own natural power and prowess and intelligence and strengths. But when we were growing up, and I'm guessing the women that'll be reading this book that are in the business professional world, they grew up a couple decades ago at least, right? And so that world was very different, and you were discriminated against and really repressed, which is still happening today, don't get me wrong. So to know that and to trust that, and that doesn't ever go away. And so the tools that I offer in my work, in my trainings and in my coaching, the core of female leadership, for example, is reminding women what they have at their core, who they are, who are we. And so, you know it, I'm sure the people listening here know it. When you're in a meeting and you're thinking, oh, this is so off. That's it. That's the connection. Or you want to write a letter and it's like, oh, I'm going to write this. Like, no, I don't think we distance ourselves from it. So if we start tuning into and listening to that core of ourselves and stay connected to that, trust that connection, literally we are plugging into a force that is working in everything. And that sounds metaphysical, but it's very, very concrete.
It is such a fascinating topic, because I know a lot of our life, I totally agree with you, by the way, about, when I got brought up, it was like seen and not heard, definitely. A lot of that, you've got to be a good girl, you've got to be polite, you've got to be, pretty, you've got to be, definitely quiet and do everything not to create a ripple, or which does make you as a female really just think, okay, well, I've definitely got to pull back, which is absolutely true. And I'm so glad we're having such breakthroughs here, but there's so much work to be done. Another thing that happens, I think, in modern society is when you're talking about connection, a lot of my childhood also was that you have to become, then independent. You have to do things your own, on your own. You have to, that was part of being an adult, that you actually, stand on your own 2 feet, do things. And there was a lot of solo sort of operational language, right? That's really damaging too, because if you're saying the whole source is actually to know who you are and then how to connect with others, it sort of goes against the grain of that as well.
Yes, it does. And that kind of verbiage creates our worldview, right? Because when we're learning language, we have only the language given to us to understand the world around us and within us. And so if we're told we're to be seen and not heard, that tells us we don't have value in the world. Our voice doesn't count, or what we have to say isn't of worth. And so to be aware of not only how we language ourselves when we're raising children or when we're mentoring young people, but also how we do that for ourselves. And that independence that you're speaking about, it's really a fallacy in the colonized worlds. In the indigenous world, they have a model of the spiral. And in the center of the spiral is the human, right? And then when you go out, then you have the animals, then the plants and the minerals, and then the planetary cosmos. And the misconception is that, well, humankind is in the center. We're most important. Just the opposite. All of those things can survive and thrive without us.
Yes, exactly.
But we cannot thrive or survive without all of that. So we are absolutely we are dependent on nature, and we are interdependent with one another. And so to be aware of that interdependence, and when we groom that paradigm, looking at the world that way, Annie, what I have found is so useful in my business is not only my connection to first self and then out into the world, but then when I'm thinking that way, I meet somebody. I have a client and they say, oh, I want to do XYZ. Immediately my mind goes out seeking the field. Who can I connect them with? Who would be supportive to them? How can they help so-and-so? It's like a network. And so it becomes this dynamic of connection. And that's really the spider web of life, if you will. You pull on one string and the whole thing reverberates.
Oh, I love your language and I love your clarity. And that's why you've written this chapter, because it just does start to blow your mind off. That's right. We're raised to hold back, be quiet, and then become independent and self-sufficient and actually sort of solo operators. And the arrogance actually of humanity that we actually go, oh, well, that's right. You know, we're the key of everything and we don't need anyone. It is incredible arrogance actually on ourselves as society. Whereas actually, you know, what you're saying is actually that we're the ones who need everything to be in balance, you know, and that's right. All of nature continues on without us, you know, everything else is finely tuned and not and in balance. We're the ones who throw the spanner in the work.
That's right.
Is this a core principle? I know you have trademarked the core success training internationally. So is this a key feature of this? And is this one of the reasons, this understanding of why you've been so successful in the coaching that you do?
That's a great question. And I think it is at the foundation of it. So if we think of consistently of that connection to self and to other and to spirit, or the larger life force, really is what I write about in the chapter, is that force that's pulsing through all of us. Core stands for clarity. So first being clear that it's there, like saying, and growing the awareness of I am connected and we're connected, and it's all relational. And then ownership is really standing in that value and saying, I count. And so do you. There's no hierarchy. I'm not better than you. He's not better than her. We are all of equal value. And then R is for resolution. So if anything brings me out of that alignment, if anything is not keeping me in that place of connection and integrity, then I have the responsibility to resolve that. And E is for excellence, of living from that place at the highest level I possibly can and celebrating others to do the same. And actually, that's my definition of leadership, is to be clear about and anchor yourself in the highest place in yourself, see that in the other person, and then invite them to come along. And that's leadership. When leaders come from that place and encourage and support that place in other people, boy, there's nothing that you cannot achieve.
Exactly. There's nothing. And it's interesting because you've got it all mapped out. And that's actually a lot of the foundational, heart of even why I created Women's Biz Tribe, right? To actually go, we need to all collaborate together. We need to respect each other. No one's better than anyone else. We need to support each other. We need to encourage each other. We need to keep each other accountable. And so it's all those sorts of same principles that you have just perfected in the core principle. Did you learn that, as I know you're an executive coach for Forbes Coaches Council, and you've been a Canfield success trainer, former Tony Robbins coach. In all of that experience, was that, like, did that actually just come to life, that all these different people, these gurus, if you like, on actually getting high performance, high outcomes, just become better people? Was that all a united sort of agreement that this is the way we should be? We should actually reverse engineer the way we are operating in society, and we should just go back to, the collective rather than the social, that we actually need to, be aligned with each other?
I'll answer that question this way, that you literally cannot reinvent the wheel. So you can package it in certain ways that it looks more attractive this way, or it appeals to this culture that way. But in the end, even if you talk about Tony Robbins and his background in neurolinguistic programming, right? Those messages are age old. Jack Canfield and what he's learned, right? If we look at landmark education, the Course in Miracles, all of the mystical teachings of any world religion are telling you the same thing. You are connected and you are good. And from that place, you have an obligation, a responsibility in human form to do good in the world. And so what I have done is, from many, many best practices, and I had the greatest blessing also to work with Dr. Natalie Rogers, Carl Rogers' daughter, who is the father of humanistic psychology. I translated for her and I assisted her for 7 years in her person-centered trainings in Europe. So even that background, and Carl Rogers' premise was, when we feel understood in our own internal frame of reference, when somebody hears us from that place, that alone is healing. And so when we do that first for ourselves, and we connect with that knowing of ourselves and our own value, and like, oh, there I am. And sometimes we do it through meditation. Sometimes it's through music. Sometimes it's when we have a good meal and with friends. It's like, oh, it just feels right. Whatever it is, we know that resonance. So there are different ways to share that with the world. And with your gurus, my opinion is we are all gurus. Just remember and live and operate from that place. And that's really all it's about. And again, no hierarchy. These people have been magnificent in sharing their truths and their way of doing it. But every individual has their own way. Those are only, we can't mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon, right? It's the finger pointing.
Exactly.
Right?
So what they've actually done is they've branded it, they've packaged it their way, and that's a great thing. And well done them. And the truth are the truths. So whether you have got that from Tony or Jack or Leeza or anyone, we've actually all got that. It's open to everyone. Everyone needs to have the power of connection. Everyone needs to actually, have themselves all centered and then know how they're in relation with other people and how to treat other human beings and how they wish to be treated and so forth. So all of those are just a brand. I love that. Everyone is their own guru in that way.
And that treating others comes from that place. So if I go into a business meeting, or when I do strategic planning, right? I do strategic planning for large organizations, or even for, public offices for the states. When I go in and let's say I have a room full of, I worked recently for engineers for the Department of Environmental Quality here in Oregon. And I go and I have a group of engineers. The first thing that I do, and strategic planning is very analytical. The first thing that I do is I speak to, how much do you really love who you are? And how is that connected to how much you love what you're doing? And from that place, if you love what you're doing, how can we do that better? Or more efficiently, or more to serve the earth or the community? And from that place, now let's look at SWOT, critical issues, strategies, right? So where do we start? We have to start here. So that's really the power of connection.
Oh, how powerful is this chapter going to be, everyone, when you actually buy this book through kmdbooks.com? Oh, my goodness. clarity that you have in the way you communicate is just so brilliant. I absolutely love that. What you're actually saying, in your beautiful way, is actually, are you planted in the right garden? Do you know who you are? And then have you actually positioned yourself in the right place? And then what are you going to do to actually nurture and grow that and attract other, people who are also going to want to connect with you? It's just such foundational principles, but so true that we often jump to the exciting part of, well, where's the strategy, where's the what are my goals going to be, and how am I going to measure those goals, and how am I going to measure my success? And we get all excited about the big stuff, right? Because we assume that that's going to be where our return on investment is going to be if we put our time and our energy here. But you might have missed the whole point, that you don't know, actually, you haven't actually got that clarity around who you are, and are you actually connected to the right people to start.
Well, when you build a building, right, you start with a foundation and a skeletal structure, right? That is the foundation and skeletal structures. Who am I? Am I connected? And how do I move forward in the world? What do I want? If we don't have that, we're starting with the wallpaper, the window fixings, how's that going to work?
It's ad hoc, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So it's not just who to connect to, it's who not to connect to.
Also,
who to actually leave alone. That's someone else's connection.
That's right. This
is not going to end up good for you. It's not helpful to you. It adds no value to you, and you add no value to them at this time.
Absolutely. So that's such a great point, Annie. So people often, when I have an intake session, when clients call me and we have a conversation, there are certain people who want that quick fix, or they want me to give them answers, which, how can I do that? I'm not them. So I'm clear about my value is not going to be of service to them.
Yeah.
And yet I want to support them. So I will make suggestions of books, trainings, other coaches that might support them. So again, the connection doesn't stop just because I'm choosing not to have that type of connection with them, but then I can connect them with others.
Exactly. I love highlighting this point, because I've had a number of people actually over the last couple of years going, I can't believe how much, how overly generous you are, Annie. It's bad for your business. You're referring to others. You go and say, you need to see this person. That's not the way to grow your business. I love it the way they tell me that. And I'm like going, oh no, I actually totally disagree, because if I'm not going to add value to them at this time, or I know that, oh my gosh, you need to see Leeza or Lisa or, Jenny or whoever, they go, oh my gosh, that they're going to be that person for you at this time. I'm not going to lose that person. They're still in my community. They respect, they have a value to it, and also they're going to have their needs met, which is what you actually want. So this whole concept, and I know those of you who are going to, when you read this book cover to cover, you're going to get a very strong theme, because of the women, the caliber of the women who are actually authoring in this book have got those same principles, that they're actually going, we're all here, that the person who has a problem, we want them to have the right solution at that time in the right way for them. They need to be connected to the right source, and while we're all, loosely connected to each other, but we have real respect as to, where everyone's, value lies, and their expertise and so forth. So important. Oh my goodness. Because this then changes businesses. This changes organizations. Once you actually start realizing who you are all organically, and actually having a great clarity around that, always starts with clarity, right? And also not just a clarity of this is our position and I can read it. It's a clarity that you actually feel, isn't it? It's a clarity that you understand, but it actually deeply resonates.
Right. And when we bring ourselves to that place, when we connect with ourselves, we have to know, we can't not know that we are all connected. We don't exist in an isolated vacuum. It's not possible, right? Just the fact that we're sitting here talking to each other. If some engineer hadn't figured out, Steve Jobs, for example, right? Whomever, people I've never met, figured it out. I couldn't see you, Annie. You're on another continent. We are all dependent and interdependent on one another. And the information that I'm sharing is only coming through this because of the beauty of your generosity of creating this collaboration of women writing this book, right? So to the idea that we're existing alone is literally what's created the chaos and the crisis that we have today. And returning to the knowing that we are connected and it's relational. There's not a system out there that's not functioning. We are the system. And the way that we act and be and do our business as the system, as part of, is actually creating it as we're moving and doing. And there's nothing more powerful than that.
There is nothing more powerful than that. This is key learning, everyone. You need to get this book and you need to read this chapter, because this really, this one chapter will seriously change the way you operate. I think so many of us, I think we're just little islands that we just go, no, just get, and there's so much pressure, I think, in society, and particularly on young people to become, even to, become strong who you are, to become independent, just to not depend on anyone else. These kind of words that people say to you are damaging, because that's exactly it. Particularly in a global world, look at us. We've met a couple of times already this week, and we're opposite sides of the world because we are connected in the people that we are, the people that we mix with, the messages that we have. Exactly, we are organically linked, and so are so many people in the world. I think this is just such a fantastic chapter. So why did you find, I'd love to ask something personal then, do you believe that the people who've got links to Indigenous communities, this has been a real solid truth for for all of history, that the tribal groups, I've created a tribe. Tribal groups have had a greater understanding of the power of connection, that they've needed each other to survive. And whereas more modern Western society has gone this route of, individuals and yourself as king and master and commander kind of thing. Do we think that we can learn a lot more from Indigenous groups in this way? Or is it really that, they've just had an understanding in their sort of frame of reference because of, the way they live life, and we have to learn it in our own way? Is it the same, is what I'm trying to say?
Well, what and I'd love to answer that, and thank you for asking, because as you know, I walk an Indigenous path. So it's a fallacy to believe that it's they. We are all of this earth. If we go back to the beginning of humankind, we were all living with and on and as the land.
Yeah.
Right? With time, we have removed ourselves mentally and then also physically from that natural way of being. And there were also Indigenous cultures that have lived separate from the knowing of connection. And on this continent, they then finally coalesced into a confederacy that was the predecessor, if you will, to the American democracy. So the Iroquois Confederacy, where they realized the fallacy that we have is, it's just about me getting what I want.
Yes.
Acquisition, I'm over here, which you keep referring to as independence, as it's sold in the world, right? I'm over here and I'm going to take this, or I need more of that. So I'm this siloed piece and I'm going to acquire. And that then says I'm worth a lot. We've heard it, right? He's worth a lot. She's worth a lot. The company's worth a lot. That's one paradigm that has brought us to this competitive belief system of he who, or she who, usually it's he, but he who has more is better.
Yes.
The other side of that, the organic side that has been pushed aside with colonization and colonized thinking, is relational and connected. I'm connected to the earth. I am the earth. I'm connected to you, Annie. Whatever I do is going to affect you, your children, your grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. And that goes on. To ignore that, to say, oh, that's not there. I just need to get this car and buy this house. We're living in a fantasy world. It's a fantasy. And I find it kind of funny. They call them reality shows. That's about as far removed from reality as you could possibly get.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Reality is, how are we connected? How do we do our work? And in the cultures on this planet that have been ravaged with war or genocide, even in this country, right? On this continent of North America, it's founded on genocide, first, of over 80 million Indigenous people that nobody talks about that genocide. They're now separated onto little reservations that were discarded to. Then we brought over people from another continent and had them as slaves. So just the way this culture alone has evolved has led to, well, I'm better than you are, and I can get more than you. man. And if I just do X, Y, Z, I'm going to push you out. Right. So we have allowed a devolving from our natural way of being in the world as Indigenous people, which we all are, and forgetting that we are connected to self, to the life force, and to one another. And when we come back to that, we're going to start thriving. And there's it has to come, because we're either going to annihilate ourselves or we're going to return to the knowing of we are connected. And this is the only way forward for any of us to thrive and for our planet to thrive.
Is this gold, everyone? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is just key principles. There's no us and them. There's no someone's better and someone's worse. Someone's more powerful. So it's not, it's self-proclaimed, it's positioned, but in the end, we all need each other. And the quicker that we understand and respect the environments that we're planted in, the land that we dwell in, and the environment that we inhabit, the better the world will be. For ourselves personally, for our families, for our communities, for our businesses. It's just the way the world works. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Leeza. Oh my goodness. I love your sharing. I love your whole, understanding of, culture. I can feel culture and just deep love of humanity come through absolutely everything you do. I can see why you have just been such an amazing coach globally, and that you have achieved so much. And everyone, once you start Googling Leeza, you'll go, oh my God, this lady is seriously amazing. So go to leezasteindorf.com and you'll check her out. She's even had her own TV show. She's seriously one impressive lady. She knows this stuff. Like all the authors in this book are experts in their field. And what you're actually getting is you're getting, decades of learning and wisdom. There's actually a new generation of women that says, you know what, I'd love to pass this on to you. That's right. It's just a gift. And we need to be doing that. We need to be helping each other so that we can rise together and collaborate all the way, because we are interconnected, and with that is incredible power that we choose to either adopt or not, but it's there for the taking. It's there for it's there anyway. We just actually have to access it and appreciate it. So use it and appreciate it, is my belief on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Thank you for everything you do.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I am so thrilled that you've been able to make yourself available for our launch. Everyone, if you haven't got a copy yet, it is available on kmdbooks.com. It's also on Kindle, so you can get it into your Kindle just in the next few days, as soon as all of our pre-release things get settled. And I'm super excited. I would love you to take a photo of yourself with the book. Also, just give feedback to any of the authors. If you read Lisa's chapter and go, oh my gosh, where has this woman been all my life? Tell Leeza, right? Reach out to her. All of the authors are going to have bios in the book. They'll be easy to find, easy connected. You can also find them obviously via Women's Biz Tribe, and we will put you in touch with them. Go to her website and check her out. She is just doing some amazing things, and she's happy to pass on this wisdom to you. So thank you so much, Leeza. Thank you everybody else for tuning in. Our next author, actually there's a bit of a delay because of just time zones and bits and pieces. So you will hear from Sarah Blake a little bit later, but for now, thank you